We celebrate here on Bay Area Focus Women's History Month. The California Symphony is shining a spotlight on a brilliant composer. We're talking about the work of Alma Mahler. She gave up her career when she married her husband Gustav. The show is here. It's called Mahler's Inner Circle, and here to tell us more is California Symphony Executive Director Lisa Dell. Welcome to Bay Area Focus, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so take us back. Give us a little bit of a history lesson. Who was Alma Mahler?
So Alma Mahler, a composer in her own right before she became a Mahler. Later on, married Gustav Mahler, and if you look deep into her history, you can see that she has lots of famous suitors and lovers, including Schoenberg and other notable names.
Wow.
When she married Gustav, he was Mahler, he wanted to be the big composer in the family, and it wasn't until he really listened to her songs and realized she was worth supporting as well. So she did squeak out a few works that we are still hearing today. And so we're going to revive those at our concert at the end of the month.
What really struck me when you talk about those works, only 5 of those were published. Why? Like nowadays, it's so much easier, right? But back then it was harder.
I think still, even today, I find myself saying it's 2023. Women should be equal in this space. But then I was saying that in 2022 and in 2015 and back we go. And it's really just a reminder that every step forward women make, there were women throughout history working on those same steps. And I think we look at our own short history of the women's movement, and women like Alma and other rock star composers from her time were their contemporaries with their husbands and friends, and yet we choose to play Mozart and Mahler before we look any further.
To know that there was somebody right there, lockstep, genius. So how is her work resonant today? Not only her work, the musicality of it, but the message behind her work.
Well, I would say just from California Symphony's perspective, when we look at the history of classical music, we realize there are these lost stories of the composers that were there with Mozart, like Mariana Martinez, and Alma Mahler with Gustav Mahler. And so our music director, Donato Cabrera, is really great at looking at that full history and programming concerts that give that history versus just saying, we'll stick a Mahler symphony here and the audience will come. No, let's tell our audience the story of music at that time. And so this concert is really filling in those gaps.
It's such intentional programming, right? And also the way that you cast the symphony. I'm probably not using the right term. You don't cast a symphony, but you know what I mean. Listen to this. For our viewers at home, all female lineup of soloists, and your orchestra is comprised of 50% women. That's what I mean about the intentionality. It's one thing to talk about these things. It's another thing to try to balance the scales in real life, and you're doing that in your numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes beyond even what you see on stage. Our board is 50% women. Our office staff actually was tipping the scale pretty male. So we've been hiring some men to have, a balance in the office as well. We have what we call our commitment to diversity that we've been using as a framework since 2017, when we became the first symphony to really publish a statement about the work we're doing on stage and off to elevate all voices across, not just the traditional male composers that you hear, and looking at just having an all-male orchestra, that we are intentional in the programming and the soloists we select and in the way that we run our organization.
And I look to a day when we don't have to discover the works of, say, Emily Dickinson. We don't have to find them in a drawer somewhere. They're on library shelves. Of course, that's the backstory of poet Emily Dickinson. Her works were found in a drawer later, sort of like Alma Mahler. So I'm really glad to know that you're doing this, not only in the way that you're programming what you're offering to our community, but also how, like you say, you're stacking the staffing of everything that you do. It's intentional, it's important. Closing sentiment from you, why is something like that important, and how does it help music sound better?
Yeah. Well, I think it helps us just as audience members when we're in the hall and we're hearing such beautiful music. We know that we're not hearing just a brief moment in time, but we have the full story of what was happening when this music was written. So in this concert, We have all sorts of music that was written at that time. And it's important as an organization like us, we know that we have an opportunity to literally put people on stage and elevate their voices. And we take that seriously as not only as an orchestra, but as a platform.
And the sound is sweet. Lisa Dell, I'm so glad you are elevating the brilliance of Alma Mahler at California Symphony. Thank you so much. Mahler's Inner Circle will be at Lesher Center for the Arts on March 25th and 26th. For tickets and information, visit californiasymphony.org.